Hey, Fire FC family, thanks for tuning in to this month's Alum Spotlight. With me today is Tyler Speer. Played with our club, what would you say, since you're five?
Yeah, probably 4 or 5. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got a lifer with us, not a transplant of any kind, and never ended up transplanting until he went into his college playing career. So before we get there, Tyler, why don't you just give people somewhat of a brief overview as to when you played, so they can be like, "Oh, I was doing that at that time," and we'll work off of that.
Okay. Yeah, totally. So I started playing with fire probably, gosh, I was like 4 or 5. So probably like 2004 is when I first started playing rec. Um, Played rec until I was like 8 or 9, I would say. So right around 2008, 2009. And then kind of got the opportunity to start playing with a competitive team right around when I was 9 or 10.
How
And
so?
then
I'll freeze you there real quick. Like, what did that look like? Was it because you were scoring a ton at the rec level, and it's like, yeah, we need to move this Tyler kid up? What was that?
I don't remember like specifics to be honest. I think if I remember correctly, I think that you came to watch or you'd seen me play, I think some when I was a rec kid.
Yeah.
Um, and I know that there was a program kind of in rec, like with academy and stuff like that back in the days, where some of the, I guess, better players were kind of having the opportunity to get a chance to play some better competition and play together. And I think through that, I kind of started or at least got invited to play guest play, and I think it was just like a game or a tournament up in like Eagle or Vale with um the year above me a little bit.
Huh?
So yeah, and that was a great experience and kind of got me or jump started my career into the competitive world for sure. So
Cool. And then played competitively on the premier team from day one.
yep, I started on the premier team, yeah, like 9 or 10 and played essentially with nearly the same identical team until I was 18. So
Okay. And then you were involved in the ODP throughout your competitive. What did that entail?
yeah, so I got involved with ODP probably when I was like 11 or 12, somewhere around there is when I first started. And I think I played ODP for like 3 or 4 years. I can't totally remember
Sure.
off the top of my head. But yeah, I don't really remember how I even like got the option to go try out for ODP, but there's just like a big tryout where they have 100, 200. I don't even remember. So many kids
Yeah.
at those tryouts. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's chaos.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had the opportunity to go try out in Denver for like 2 days or something like that. And you kind of go through training sessions, coaches coach you through stuff, you play a bunch, and they kind of weed you down into a team that they like. And I was fortunate enough to be chosen for like the top 18 in Colorado for 3, maybe 4 years. I can't totally remember, something like that.
Fair enough. And
So
then
then,
go ahead, sorry.
oh, yeah. And then I was just going to say from there, just kind of, it was mostly just training sessions every once in a while over in Denver. Had the opportunity to go play in a few tournaments. We went to Southern California once. Got to play in the Region 4 ODP tournament in Phoenix a couple years. Um, yeah, that was kind of my experience with that.
Position wise, club team, did that change when you played with the ODP group? What was that like for you?
Um, so when I started out, I was playing a lot of center mid and probably some striker. I can't really remember exactly. But kind of getting older, and when I started playing with you, Gump, I was mainly a center mid, but you had us playing all over the place, which is very helpful. So I remember playing outside mid, winger, outside back, probably some striker as well. Can't totally remember, but mostly attacking and holding mid.
Yeah.
Um, and that kind of, I kind of started playing more in that role, like almost exclusively, probably around like age 14 or 15, and I kind of played that through my college career and played that since. So
That
yeah.
holding more of a defensive center mid
Uh Kind of
or box to box?
I guess more I would say more box to box. At least in college I was more of a box to box midfielder.
Okay.
Depending on the coach, sometimes more holding in high school. Um but sometimes box to box. It kind of varied, but one of those two for sure.
Okay. How
Yep.
about ODP? Did that change for you? Or were you
Um,
kind of center mid in this group as well?
I played center mid at ODP too, and I think mainly a box to box midfielder if I remember correctly. It was a long time ago, but
Yeah.
I think
So,
so.
so
Yeah.
let me put you on the spot, racking your brain back in your club days. For those of you that can't see Tyler, you're what, 5'5"?
5'6" maybe. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you're 5'6", you played a year up, so that physical dynamic was always a challenge, I think, fair to say, because again, you're giving something up, but you're getting something in return. So what do you feel like helped differentiate you to not just hang, but to stand out, even playing up a year?
Yeah, I think from the get-go, I had always kind of been really focused on the technical aspect of my game. So especially working with you a lot, we worked on technical stuff all the time, and I think that that was one of the biggest differentiators for me was my first touch was really good in my opinion, like especially when I was younger, like better than most people. And also I know I was smaller, but I felt like I did a pretty good job of like using my body in the correct way. So I knew how to get myself in the right positions where I could shield properly if I needed to, or I could reach around if I needed to, or do whatever it took to just kind of maneuver around. And obviously, when you're smaller, you kind of have to have you're obviously you have a lower center of gravity, so you have the ability to just kind of stay grounded and be there and be strong. So I felt like over the years too, I got better and better at just like being strong and holding my own, even against taller people like that. But really, I think it was mostly the technical aspect of my game and also just like my soccer knowledge. I felt like was
Yeah,
something that helped me stand out a little bit more was my ability to actually see the field well and understand kind of what was happening around me all the time.
yeah,
Um, Trying to remain one, two, three steps ahead whenever I could. Those were things that always helped me, I think,
yeah.
set myself apart.
Yeah, yeah, and I just want to piggyback on that concept of you're never putting the blame on, well, he or she's faster than me, so there's nothing I can do about it. It's how do I stay ahead of it, right? And being proactive versus reactive. I think that's a very good takeaway for any of our listeners out there, whether you're the parent and something to maybe share with your kid or say, hey, come watch this because this is a player that came through Fire FC that, again, physically, size wise, stature wise, was never one of the tallest, but you found ways not to just deal with it, but to excel, to say that's not going to hinder me, that's going to help me. I'll expand on that vision piece because I think that sets you up with the technical. Is Tyler was a player 100% that because of your willingness and ability to apply that not just in a training environment but in a game environment, you're able to have a good first touch because you had that just that habit to constantly scan to say players on my right, my first touch is going left, so it doesn't become a guessing game anymore. It's a confident game for you. And then I would say another technical facet that still stands out to me is your range of passing. I think sometimes there again, players that are undersized, they so often can look for the 5, 10, 15-yard pass, and that can hinder them. And I think your ability to have that vision is, hey, can I play a ball 20 yards to switch the point of attack? Allows you now to create that space for yourself. And I feel like something you definitely were able to comprehend that and not just know what to do, but know when to do it. I think is probably even more important because I think there's a lot of players out there that they know a lot of skills, but they don't always know when to apply it or where to apply it on the field. So absolutely there. How about let's segue into, well, before we get to college, how about what are things you miss? Just like, ooh, talking about this a little bit, or just thinking back on my club days, this, I really miss this.
Yeah, gosh, more than anything, I miss like some of the hard training sessions we had with my teammates because my team was always really good about kind of passion and intensity a lot. I felt like, and you kind of instilled that in us from a young age, and I felt like we kind of carried that through high school as well. And just some of the like great training sessions that we had were just like awesome, you know. And I think that that really set me up well going forward through college was everybody on the team was very passionate and they wanted to win and they wanted to succeed and they wanted to improve every day. And I think that that was a great atmosphere that I miss. You know, some of my teammates I haven't seen in a long time, but I still remember some of the crazy training sessions or crazy goals people scored and stuff like that. So,
Fair enough. And now jump. skip the high school world and we'll go into college. You end up where?
Yeah, so I ended up at a school up in Seattle, Washington called Seattle Pacific, Division II school. They play in the GNAC, Great Northwest Athletic Conference. So yeah.
And did we have other Fire C alum before you? You're like, I want to go follow their footsteps, or was it you just doing your thing, saying, you found the right place for you?
Yeah, so no, I had never as far as I knew, there was no Fire alum that had ever been there before. I had kind of been in contact with them. They saw me play at a tournament in Phoenix. They saw me play at President's Day tournament in Phoenix. Kind of got in contact from them or with them from there, and they invited me up to a camp one summer, saw me play a little bit more. It was nice for them. They could kind of see some more eyes because obviously in a tournament, you're only seeing one game maybe, and it's tough to see totally if this kid's right. But having the ability to go up to a camp there and play in front of them one more time and get to know them a little bit more, I think that was a big step for me.
And it was one and
Yeah.
done? It was one camp, or did they invite you back for an official visit ever? Junior
Uh,
senior year?
yeah, so they saw me play at a tournament, went to a camp once, and then they invited me for an official visit. I don't think I got to play on that visit because we were in our high school season and somehow the rules didn't really line up for me to play, but they did invite me on an official visit that one time and kind of went
And
from there, I guess.
and on that, keeping our soccer specific hat on, your player, you can't play that official visit. Waste of your time, or were you able to see things that made it worth your time? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the official visit was super valuable for me because I got to go there in person and spend time with the team. So I was with the team for probably like 3 days or so. So spending time with the team, I think that was like the number one thing for me was like interacting with all the guys, seeing like, okay, this is a good group of dudes that I want to be around and I could see myself being around. So that time was incredibly valuable just to talk to those guys and then obviously seeing the soccer bit as well from like a day-to-day perspective, kind of what
Mhm.
that looks like. They were in preseason at the time, so they were training a lot, doing a lot of weightlifting and extra training. So I got to see kind of the higher end of what you're going to be doing. So it was an eye-opening experience of like, okay, this is legit. Like this is a lot more than high school, but it was a good experience for me to, like I said, see the guys, see the atmosphere, and really what I'd be doing on a day-to-day basis.
Yep. And there again, just to preface things with for our audience listening, Tyler was a very good player at this club. And with that being said, you went up to that ID camp. Did you go to 100 ID camps, or did you say I need to reel it in and go to 3? Like how did you process that as a senior? You didn't have siblings that went through the process, so to speak. So how did you find your way?
Yeah, so I actually went to quite a few ID camps at different places.
When you say
Mostly,
quite a
so
few, what would you say ish? More than 10?
no, not more than 10. I would
Okay.
say somewhere between 5 and 10, maybe
Okay.
like 6, 7, I don't know, something like that, maybe.
And then
Um,
would you say that started your 8th grade year, or that was like junior, senior year? Boom, that's where it's at.
I think my first camp was probably either late freshman year or like early sophomore year is when I
Okay.
started. And then my last camp would have been gosh, probably like spring of my junior year or something like that.
Okay.
And then my official visit was like right at the beginning of my senior year, like
Oh,
August or September, I think. So,
okay.
yeah.
And how did you decide and decipher which ones to say I'm going to that one and that one and that one, but not those?
Yeah, so I did a lot of research kind of ahead of time as to the camps and like what schools were going to be there. So a lot of camps, when you go, they'll have like multiple schools, which is kind of handy. If you go to a place with just one school, like if you really want to go to that school, I understand. But the camps where you have multiple colleges there, I think is personally helpful because you get to be in front of more coaches and you can kind of talk with and interact with all different levels, NAI, Division III, Division II, some Division I as well. It really kind of depends, but I think that way you're just expanding your network. You know, when you're getting in front of more coaches, I think it's super helpful even if you don't want to go to that program, but they're interested in you, they might have another coach that they can talk to that they can hook you up with and kind of go from there. So it's really just about getting in front of as many schools as you possibly can. And then it just kind of comes down to your performance on the field and trying to do your best, obviously.
Sure. And then before we get into your college experience, best advice, did you just give it in terms of if you're talking to that freshman or sophomore at Fire FC right now who started from scratch, like there's like, am I behind the eight ball as a freshman or sophomore in high school? What's your advice for that kid?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, even if you're a freshman or sophomore and haven't really gotten started in the process, there's still plenty of time. Like I knew plenty of my teammates didn't even like commit to a school until spring of their senior year. So they had plenty of time. And I think that any kids out there that are still freshman or sophomore, you have plenty of time. And I think the biggest thing is just to be proactive about things. So reach out to different schools, research different ID camps, think about what places in the country you want to be. Do you want to be close? Do you want to be far? What level do you want to be at? Do you want to be Division 1? Do you want to be NAIA? Do you want to be Division 3? Whatever that is. There's all these different variables to try and consider. And the more you can kind of start early and kind of narrow down that search as much as you possibly can help you choose different ID camps to go to, but also different coaches to actually contact. Um, and yeah, I think it's just trying to be proactive. It's a difficult process, but as much as you can, reach out, send video if you have it, let them know when you're going to be playing, ask if they can come watch you, whatever the case may be. Just be as proactive as you possibly can.
And maybe this will relate to some listeners out there. What were your non-negotiables?
Yeah, I honestly, I was kind of open in terms of like location. I was fine with being far or being close. I didn't really care that much. Obviously, I ended up in Washington, so that was fairly far away.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that one of the biggest things for me was just the school environment. So I wanted a place that was going to push me academically in terms of like where I want to be. Because um, my plans from the time I was in senior in high school is I wanted to go to medical school. So academics were super important to me. So I made sure that I was only looking at schools that I knew were going to be great for my academics and great for my future. Because as much as I loved soccer back then, and I still love it now, even though I'm not playing anymore, soccer's temporary and the things that come after it are for life. So you kind of have to set yourself up for that. So academics was probably the biggest non-negotiable for me.
Okay. So let's segue now into that college experience. You touched on it with having a little taste of it on your official visit and being there in preseason. Your freshman year was what with Seattle Pacific?
What year?
Yeah,
2019, 2020. So right before COVID hit.
yeah. So right before
Yep.
COVID hit, you have your first season. Everything you hoped and expected in terms of play time, in terms of role on the team.
I mean, it's always tough coming in as a freshman. I didn't play very much. I
Right.
probably only played in like 5 games or so my freshman year, got limited minutes. But I mean, as a freshman, you kind of come in and do your best and just from once you're kind of in it day to day, you kind of realize, okay, I have some improvements that I need to make for sure.
Right.
So from my perspective, obviously I wasn't happy not playing 5 games, but I understood why. And I knew that there was things to kind of grow on from there. So
Okay. And you guys have like exit meetings after your fall season to say, hey, Tyler, you got your one-on-one with coach and maybe assistant coach, so you have that
yep.
idea.
Yep, definitely.
So fair to assume. I don't know if you were feeling good because, like you said, coming off saying 5 games, but you were clear, and then COVID hits. What was that like as a collegiate athlete? What was that? Yeah, what was training like based on what you were allowed and not allowed to do?
Yeah, so COVID was kind of crazy. I was super disappointed that COVID hit because basically we had played, so we were able to train our winter quarter. That was right before. So we had our season in the fall, winter quarter, and I was actually playing like just great. Like my winter quarter, I was playing awesome, so much better than I was in the fall, and I just like was rolling with confidence and everything. COVID hits, and then I have to come home. Basically, I can't stay on campus anymore. So it was interesting. Like we basically all of classes were on Zoom. We had all of our like meetings with the team, those were on Zoom as well. Um, we had like basically once a day, kind of like a Zoom call, and we had like a different thing that we were doing that day. So anything from like video or tactical talks or like the mental aspects of game, different presentations, stuff like that.
Wow.
Um, but I mean, I was in Colorado and my like school is in Washington, so everything was virtual basically. It was essentially all on me to make sure that I was keeping up with soccer and keeping up my fitness because there was no way to do it in person, obviously.
Yeah, so what did that fitness component look like, being that everything was virtual, but the expectation is you're still a Division II athlete playing for that university?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what was helpful is the coaches were super proactive about like getting us programs and stuff that we could follow to try and help keep up our fitness. So, I mean, it was a lot of plyometric work. It was long runs, long interval runs, different sprint workouts, different stuff like that that we could do, and then weightlifting as well on top of that. And then just like during COVID, we couldn't really meet up with people, so it was a lot of just like one-on-one technical work. Essentially, is what we could do in terms of with a ball. So,
Sure. And
yeah,
that lasted only for spring, or did that go into the fall, fall 2020 season that you were still doing so much virtual?
yeah. So, the all virtual was in the spring. In the fall, I was able to go back up to Seattle. We were in person, sort of. So, we were limited on the number of people that we could train with. So, we basically had pods of like 5 people in a group, and we could basically train with our 5 people
Uh-huh.
and work out with our 5 people, and that was basically it. So like even so sometimes we'd have trainings with like 2 other pods, but they would be on like different sides of the field. Um, so obviously we're super limited there in terms of what we can actually do with just 5 people. Um, but at least we were in person and able to do some stuff together. And then
And
finally in the
within
winter, we were able to go fully together as a team.
within that pot of five, were you allowed to have contact? Or was everything
Uh,
social distance training within your pot of five?
within the 5, we were able to have contact, which
Okay.
was nice. But
Yeah.
still, only 5 people. You're
Right.
limited for sure.
Yeah. 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 And so
Yeah.
that was your entire fall season that you had those pods of five?
Yep. All the way
Wow.
until like November, like the very end of our fall season, technically.
So based on that restriction, did you guys have a season or did you guys literally
No.
just okay? So
So not in the fall. NCAA was weird because I mean none of the fall sports could really do anything together. All of the fall sports, their season got moved to the spring.
that's
So
right.
we had our technical season in the spring, and even that was kind of limited, I would say.
How
We only
so?
had like 8 games or so,
Uh-huh.
um, as opposed to our typical like 18
Yep.
games that we normally get to play. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And within that experience, so let's fast forward into an experience of the Division II tourney. Your team got in there, what, one time?
Yeah, my junior season we did.
Okay. How
Yep.
far, what, first round, second round, Sweet 16?
First round. We lost in the
Okay.
first round.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how about regular season? Being that regular season champs that year, or were you
Yep.
top two? What
Regular
that look
season
like?
champs. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And you guys do a tournament as well? Like you have your regular season champs, and then you have your tournament champs, and then you have the NC2A tourney?
The GNAC's a little weird because our conference is a little smaller, so we actually don't do a tournament all
Okay.
regular season. We play everybody twice, but that kind of makes up for the no tournament, I guess. So just full regular season champs there, no tournament.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then because of the COVID dynamic, you what kind of chose to stay for that extra year based on
Yep.
that?
Yep. Yeah. Um, so I was kind of in a weird situation with me wanting to go to medical school. A lot of kids end up taking a year off anyway because the application process is so long and drawn out and it's a lot of work and it gives you more time to kind of work on your application. I was in a very fortunate position where I got an extra year of eligibility for a 5th season, which was great. And I could work on my application for medical school a little bit more, which was awesome. So, yeah, I got the opportunity to take an actual 5th season, which was great. So, yeah.
And a part of that great option for a very good soccer player was you were able to go to Barcelona, yeah?
Yeah, we went to Spain the summer right before we came in for preseason. So
What did that entail?
yeah, so we were there for like 11 days or so. I mean, everything fun that you can possibly think of. I mean, we went to the beach, we went and got to walk around all these cool places. So got to go see the city of Barcelona. We went to Girona for a couple days, and then we were in San Sebastian for like 6 days or so, something like that. Bilbao for a couple days. So it's really just kind of doing a lot. I mean, everything kind of touristy stuff, going to the beach, walking around the city, doing all that fun stuff. But then on top of that, we got to play games against some of like the like U18, U19, U20, 23s of different clubs over in Spain. I think we played like 4 games or 4 or 5 games when we were over there. So that was obviously a really cool experience getting to play um, some like legit clubs, some of their kind of younger teams. So that was a lot of fun as well.
Yep, yep. And I think that's kind of a great aspect that some programs, not all programs, are able to offer because Seattle Pacific, you said, did it every 4 years, or they tried to. That was kind of
Yeah,
the goal.
yeah, every 4 years. So I was actually fortunate enough to go on one my freshman year too. So I went
Oh,
to Europe my freshman year and right before my senior year because it worked out. I came in as a freshman, got to go to Europe. So that trip we went to the Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, and France. That trip.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, we were there for like 2.5 weeks the first time,
Okay.
and then got to go to Spain this last summer. So
Nice.
yeah,
There you go. And what I was saying there is that D1 programs, D2 programs, I can't speak on behalf of NAIA's junior college in D3 if they're able to get some of those trips in. But again, for our listeners out there, something to be mindful of. Maybe it's a question if that's important to you to be like, hey, by the way, is this something your program is able to do? I don't know that it should be make or break, but again, kind of the cherry on top, so to speak, to say what a cool collegiate experience, and then you get to do that in addition to that. I think awesome. But again, it
yeah,
comes out in expenses, as you know.
yeah, yeah,
What did you have to do
definitely.
there out of curiosity? Did you have to fundraise quite a bit or say, hey, fundraise or write the check? How did that work?
So it was a lot of fundraising is what we did. Yeah, basically a ton of fundraising. And then I think for this last trip, I think some families maybe had to pay out of pocket if they had some extra cash that they had, available, but it was almost entirely fundraising driven. So we didn't have to pay that much out of pocket, which was great.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And now we're here, right? We're in the alum spotlight. It's like, okay, we're not here because you're a current player. That chapter is written, and what chapter is being written or going to be written for Tyler Speer.
Yeah, so I'm like I kind of mentioned before, but I kind of my senior year in high school I decided that I wanted to become a physician. So that's kind of been my journey, at least academically, wanting to become a physician and been through the application process and recently got accepted to a couple schools. And I'm actually going to go to Midwestern University, which is in a suburb of Chicago, attending medical school starting in August. So that's kind of next on the path for me.
Okay. And if it's up to you, is what niche within that space do you hope to pursue?
Yeah, I'm really not sure right now. I've
Okay.
kind of shadowed around at a bunch of places. I'm working at an eye clinic right now as well. Also working as a scribe in the emergency department part-time right now as well. And so I've seen kind of a lot of different specialties and I've kind of liked everything that I've seen a little bit. So I don't really know exactly what I want to do yet. I'm thinking I want to do something procedural, surgical related, just because I want to see patients, but also have the ability to do something with my hands, not just see patients all day.
Okay.
So something maybe to consider for me for the future, but I'm not totally sure what field I want to go into yet.
I think that's great to hear because I think a lot of young athletes get pressed either by their parents or just by adults in general or by their friend groups. Be like, what are you going to do? And you don't need to have it all figured out by 16 years old, by 17 years old. By the time you graduated college, you still don't need to figure it out because give yourself time. And I think that's brilliant that you're allowing yourself that freedom to say, I don't know, maybe I'll dabble in this still and I'll dabble in that still because you have the time to do that. And I think so many people are in fast forward mode to say, I need to be there already. I'm already behind. And that's just simply not the case. So that's cool to hear.
Yep.
So guys, thank you for tuning in for this month of Alum Spotlight. Tyler, thank you for taking the time to share your story. For our listeners out there, did I hear you're assisting Matt Leach a little bit with the 19s?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, good. So you're giving back to the sport that's given you a little bit, so we appreciate that. So guys, thank you again for listening. Until next month, this is this month. Thanks again.